Whoa, a hero rises. Yeah, that thing. We got the results. Are they any good? Surprisingly, yeah, the results were pretty solid this time around. Of the top 8, we have Emblem Lin, Emblem Sigurd, New Year's Neathogger, Ninja Lucina, Attuned Hector, Tamara, Legendary Ira, and Mythic Neathogger. Well, maybe it depends on whether you think 2 snakes is considered solid or not. Solid snake. That wasn't even intentional. I didn't even write that in the script. But we'll get into that. I figured the results would be a bit different, but that's also because I saw Deer Dude and Felix up in the top 20 and got worried that we were going to have another Edelgard situation. But surprisingly, no. It was all pretty good stuff. Also, I figured we'd get more emblems in the top 8, but surprisingly, they didn't qualify. We only got Lin and Sigurd, and it's not like Celica and Ike did poorly by any means. Celica and Ike got 9th and 10th respectively, which is still pretty good. Although I would say I think we just had a lot of competition for pretty much anything power creep, which, you know, is actually pretty interesting when you think about it, because Celica and Ike still have their whole ring effect thing. So even as units, even if they don't really do a lot these days, they still have the ring effect, which still has a lot of value. So I'm wondering if the rings alone just aren't enough to compel people over something like an attuned unit or anybody that's just strictly better, but I got no idea. I know at least for Ike, there were 2 of them in the top 20, and I imagine both of them kind of ate into each other's votes, so I don't actually know if Emblem would have done better if there wasn't any Desert Ike and vice versa, but I mean, realistically, they both still did pretty well, and I mean, if there weren't any other Ikes to vote for, I probably would imagine those votes would have went somewhere. No idea about Celica though, but I'm going to assume the ring effect is just not enough to carry any unit these days. Like, Lin herself is already broken, and the ring effect is still good, but I would definitely say it's not the best one we have. And Sigurd himself, you know, he's also really stupid, and the ring is also really good, so that one's just naturally going to be really high. Martha's also on a Hero Fest, so it's natural that he just didn't score nearly as well, which I think is fine because, yeah, he's on a Hero Fest. Everyone likes Hero Fests. I don't like Hero Fests. Those are scams, by the way. 5% does not mean 5%. I would have argued that maybe the unit being hated probably prevented it, but, you know, the snakes are there, so it's probably not that, and there's a lot of other units up there regardless. But even barring that, I think the picks are still pretty good, and you know, it's also kind of funny that Ira and Neathogger are here because they were just on the recent Legendary and Mythic banners. So really the only thing you have to swap out here is Hector and Marianne, and it's basically the same share regardless, which, yeah, that's kind of funny. As far as the fodder's concerned though, I mean, it's probably pretty good for the most part, I'd have to imagine, because all these units are like a week old at best, maybe like 6 months at best, but you know, the ones that are up here that are that old already have really good fodder, but I digress. Red, I think, is the only one where I'm like, you know, it could be better, but that's just because Neathogger and Hector kind of have a lot of overlapping skills. They both have the same type of save, they both have a fighter 4 skill, but at least one's slick and one's wily, but you know, it's more or less kind of the same stuff, it's just one different effect anyway. And then whatever special and anything else, Hector's definitely a lot more splashable comparatively than Neathogger, but that's just because Armored Beacon works on more units and Sturdy Beast works on like a lot of others. Beasts are just not a common type that a lot of people use, and you know, on top of that, Hector also has Disencounter Echo, which a lot of units could just use out of the box anyway. It's not that bad either way. If I had to swap her out for anything, I'd probably say for Modus, but that's just because he has Shield Fighter and Briar, which you could also dupe onto Hector, which would have been really good value. But I mean, Neathogger herself is still pretty good, and Mythic merges do have its own value, which, you know, if you do value that, which I can't imagine a whole lot of people do, it's still there, you know? There's something you're getting out of it, even if there is overlap in fodder, which I think is fine. Ira being here is also really great, and Felix not being here is the cherry on top. Thank you guys for not voting Felix in the top 8. That's really great. Blue seems like it's the most stacked of the 4, but that would be cheating if I said, yeah, green and colorless get to compete because it's just one unit. Now get out of here. Sigurd has momentum, which is really good, and you know, it's Sigurd, he's just really good in general. Tamara's basically everything I think anyone would want in a fodder bank, and honestly, I'm very happy that Tamara's here. I think she's probably the best Hero Rises candidate we do have, and you know, we have another Neathogger. Everybody loves their snakes, everybody loves the snakes, but she does have higher ground, which is actually really broken. The problem is that there just aren't a lot of dragon and beast saves in general, but as far as the skills is concerned, it is really, really strong. Honestly, the more I look at the blue share, the more I realize that Celica just has a hard time fitting in. And yeah, ring effect, good, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I'm just gonna say it. I think everybody needs to be more selfish about what they want in the Hero Rises. You want this character instead of that character. I respect it. Unless you're voting Felix, in which case we're beating you to death with hammers. But yeah, no, it's just really competitive in general, and honestly, I think I'd rather prefer these three over anything Celica could offer, but she's still a good candidate regardless. It's just there's so much to offer. Although that said, we could always get rid of like Mythic Nithauger, I guess. It's not the worst, but it doesn't matter either way. I think the top 8 is perfectly fine for the most part. All really good stuff, honestly. There's really not a lot I could change out or would probably change out for anything else unless there was like, you know, me being, again, just, oh, I want this instead. Otherwise, generally speaking, it's perfectly fine. Green and colorless also aren't sharing with anything, and they're both one-offs, which I think are pretty solid. Can't really go wrong with Emblem Lyn or Ninja Lucina, although it's hard to say whether or not you want multiple copies of Lyn outside of just fodder, but the fodder is also not the best. It's fine. It's just fine, really. That said, I prefer the diversity here over like one single color dream, if I'm gonna be real. There's just more widely useful stuff that anybody could really want for the most part, and it's not like, welcome to the 2025 Blue Dream featuring Sigurd and Tamara and Mythic Nithauger. Not the other, I mean the other Nithauger, but get this, we need one more slot to fill in the blue. We're gonna make it Desert Hawkeye because all blues are good. Doesn't matter which one we put in there, but all blues, it's pretty good. I could definitely live without it. Although with the new change, I don't think it's even feasible anymore to even have all of one color on a single banner, because now there's just 8 on the entire banner. No matter what, the top 8 is always on the banner, which, you know, I think it's a fine change. I said it before, I'm not really sure, and I think it would just depend on who you ask, but they're all going to be on the banner anyway. I think it just mitigates any sort of potential loss that we could have gotten from any sort of voting gauntlet matchup, which I'll get into later, but, you know, I say it's cool now, but if this were any other result, I'd probably be like, this is the worst thing ever. And yeah, I'm gonna be selfish about it. I don't care. I think this is fine. That said, it's not nearly as exciting, so I get why people don't like the change either way. But we do still have the voting gauntlet to determine who we get for free, which means time to play everyone's favorite game. Which winner would be the most annoying? Starting with Emblem Lyn. Emblem Sigurd follows. Honestly, I don't think he'd be that bad. He's pretty good, and I don't think he's overly toxic to the point where fighting him would be that bad. That said, he can be really annoying to face at times, but honestly, I think I'd rather take him over Lyn, if I'm gonna be real. We also have New Year's Nithauger. Whoa! Honestly, I don't know. I think she's good. I think she's very good. I think she's stupidly good, but she also has really good fodder. Higher ground is really, really ridiculously good. But would I be mad if there were a bunch of Nithaugers around anyway because of the free win? Well, she's already common anyway, so why do I care? Ninja Lucina, honestly, might be my preferred winner, but I'm being a bit selfish with that one. That said, she kind of has a mix of everything barring fodder duplication stuff, but that's fine. She's a really good unit. She has good fodder. She's pretty good in basically every single mode. I can't say there isn't anything that you wouldn't want to use her for. She just has a lot going for her. Attuned to Hector is also pretty good, and he's a unit that's almost on the same level as the snakes, if not pretty much the same level, plus he's a fodder factory, so yeah, he's pretty good. Can't complain either way. Tamara is the one unit I'm glad that's up here, and she kind of has everything anyone could want. She's a good unit. She has solid fodder. She's a fodder factory. She's an attuned unit. She has basically everything going for her. I don't think there's a single person that wouldn't want a one-off Tamara for anything. She has so much stuff. She's just really, really good, and I'm glad she made it to the top 8. Do I think she's gonna win though? Absolutely not. Legendary Ira is also really great too, and Singer here makes me glad Felix isn't, because that's the best outcome. Speed Taker isn't really the craziest, but it's still decent for a lot of nukes, and the rest of the stuff is pretty fantastic anyway. Legendary Ira is just also a really good unit, so even as a one-off, you'd probably want to keep her. And Mythic Nithauger. And between all the 8 contestants, the winner of Please Don't Be the Freebie Unit, please, 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 I beg of you, IS, is I don't know, honestly. I think I'm scared either way. Also, it's still a voting gauntlet, so it's more or less a coin flip either way, but based on the placements, there's a good chance the bracket will look like this. So it should be like Lynn versus the regular Nithauger, and then Lucina versus Hector, Sigurd versus Ira, and New Year's Nithauger versus Tamara. Assuming people try to make it as favorable as possible, I could probably see Lynn beating Nithauger because people don't like the snake. Actually, do people even like Emblem Lynn? Lucina versus Hector, I think, is probably really close, but I could see it leaning in Hector's favor purely because he's an attuned unit. But, you know, people also really like Lucina. I think it could probably go either way, but, you know, it's hard to say, and I don't really know what people prefer, but I'll assume it's in Hector's favor. Sigurd versus Ira. I think Ira's screwed, and it's not even just because of Ira, it's just because she's up against Sigurd, which is kind of unfortunate. It definitely seems like one of those instances where being paired against the wrong unit is what does it in, kind of like how Winter Edelgard was up against Attune Peony, except that one was funny. And New Year's Nithauger versus Tamara, I think Tamara would probably win because she just has way more appeal than Nithauger, being that she has way more applicable fodder and an echo skill. Also, she isn't Nithauger. I know Nithauger got more votes, but I also think Tamara just has way more general appeal, which, you know, might affect it more in the voting gauntlet when it comes around. But again, I could just be talking out of my butt for that. After that, I can't really say, but honestly, in the end, I wouldn't be surprised if both Lynn and Sigurd made it to the finals, which wouldn't be the worst, honestly. That said, it could go in any direction now that none of these units are fighting for a spot on the banner, since everybody could just be on it. Although I'd imagine some people are going to attempt to coordinate anyway, but whether or not it's going to be a Lynn thing or a Tamara thing, I don't really know. But I could definitely say most winners wouldn't really be bad at all, to be honest. But yeah, Hero Rises is pretty cool, I guess. Yeah, it sure is. We get free stuff. Free stuff is pretty cool. Seems solid overall, and honestly, I don't really think there is anything here that most people wouldn't find useful, so that's pretty nice. That said, if IS is feeling funny, they could attempt to make both snakes irrelevant in about 3 months, since they're all in the top 8 here. As long as their replacements aren't somehow worse, but we all know they will be. Also, this video is probably coming out on Valentine's Day, but I don't really know how I'd fit this into the video. Whoa, graphic on the screen. Whoa, I haven't uploaded in a week. Whoa, yeah, whoa, end the video, whoa.